For lack of a better word, there are a lot of bizarre things that happen. Several bizarre things that happen, and we need to understand what's going on here. First of all, just as an overview of the parsha, you have a situation. The Jewish people, the last parsha ended with the Jewish people, and they're on the border overlooking Moab. The king of Moab gets nervous, so he tries to hire somebody to curse the Jewish people, a man named Balaam. Balak, page 856. Balak hires a man named Balaam to curse the Jewish people. Balaam, in the beginning, he's told not to go, then eventually he goes, and then you have the famous incident where his donkey talks to him, and ultimately he tries to curse the Jewish people, and out comes a blessing. So there are a few things here that really need to be understood. First of all, and it's just strange. The whole thing is strange. All these strange occurrences, not the least of which is the whole concept of a curse. How does a curse work? How can you curse somebody? Because you pronounce a curse on the Jewish people, so that's going to affect the Jewish people? How does a curse even work? So the Gemara actually says that Balaam's ability to curse was because he knew the one moment in there's one 5,888th moment of the day where God gets angry. And at that moment, he pronounces a curse. That means that there's some sort of activation of what we would call Midas Hadin, where he could curse in that moment, which the Gemara says, well, what could you possibly say in one moment? What could you possibly say to people in one moment? He only got 1 second to curse them. So the Gemara says he could have said kalem. Kalem means destroy them. Okay, but how does a curse work? And if we're insulted, let's say somebody says you're a fool. All right, doesn't bother me. What if somebody says to you that they wish ill on you and your family? And they say that they hope you and your family. People get nervous about that, right? People get nervous if they're already saying something that's more aggressive. Calling me a name, but either it's true or it's not. Either I am a fool or I'm not a fool. No comment. Either I am a fool or I'm not a fool. But if you wish somebody ill, people get nervous about that. Why? Because it could be that you have a certain innate ability to pronounce and to bring about negative results on somebody. People get very touchy. People get very, very touchy about that. I knew a couple where we were talking this morning about closing. 856. We were talking about this morning about people building and other neighbors objecting to their buildings. I had a friend. He decided to close in his balcony. And the downstairs neighbor came up and said, and he was doing it illegally because the city the city in Israel they wouldn't authorize it. So the downstairs neighbor came up and said, if you do it, we're going to inform. We're going to tell the city that you're closing in your balcony. They wanted money. That meant pay us, and we won't say anything. So he got upset because he needed to close in his balcony. So they made a mistake. He was living upstairs. They're living right downstairs. So he started dribbling a basketball on the floor at all sorts of very interesting hours, like 2 a.m, having a basketball dribbling on the floor and banging a broomstick on the floor. It kind of annoyed the downstairs. The downstairs neighbor tried banging a broomstick on the ceiling. It's not the same. This is effortless. Just bounce a basketball. So at a certain point, his wife, who is Sephardi, and the downstairs lady is Sephardi, so they're a little maybe perhaps a little more emotional and hot-blooded, and they went to they met in the parking lot one day. His wife was in the parking lot, and the other lady came home, and she said to his wife, "I just want to tell you." The downstairs neighbor said to the wife, she said, "I just want to tell you that I'm coming back from a funeral, and I cursed you and your entire family in front of an open grave." So she got all rattled from it and told her husband, and he went downstairs and almost broke down the neighbor's door, and the police got involved, and everybody's been living happily ever since. Everybody's been living in peace and tranquility. Now, I don't know that cursing somebody in front of an open grave is any worse than cursing them in front of anywhere else, but it's got that heebie-jeebie feeling. I mean, you want to curse in front of dead bodies, open your freezer, you got dead chickens in there, so just curse somebody in front of the chickens. You can say, I cursed you in front of a bunch of dead bodies. That also works. So people get very nervous about it. Balaam wants to curse the Jewish people. Balak is going to hire Balaam to do this because Balaam's got this power to be able to do it. Okay. That's the overview of the Parashat. There's only one big question that as you learn this Parashat, take a chumash. Everybody take a chumash. Take a chumash. There are plenty of chumash on the shelf here. Page 856. Page 856. There's one big question that you should ask if you're familiar with the Parashat at all. There's one overriding question that you should ask over here. A general question on this Parsha specifically. Anybody there's a general question here. That you should, something about this Parsha, besides the witchcraft and the donkey speaking and everything else, there's something that should be a curiosity here on this Parsha. Who is Balaam? He's we'll see. Balaam is a sorcerer.
We totally don't know what's going on with the Israelites right now.
What's that?
We just panned away from the Israelites to some other dude.
You're very close. We panned away from the Israelites to some other dude. That's what he said. Now that which is true, and therefore what? You're stopped short. You're on the right track.
How do we know about it?
How do we know about any of this? You got conversations between Balaam and Balak. This. Thank you very much. The donkey only spoke once. So how did we know this? All along, it's Hashem said to Moshe. Moshe said to the Jewish people, and even what happened to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yaakov, the Jewish people had a tradition on that. That was passed down generation to generation. Those were, their ancestors. All of a sudden, you got two guys who are sorcerers and magicians, and they're off trying to curse the Jewish people. They're building altars later on. We'll see all that goes down between them. How do we know it? And the answer is because Hashem told it to Moshe Rabbeinu, from which we learned that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is watching out for the Jewish people always. That whatever's going on behind the scenes, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu reported this to Moshe Rabbeinu. Otherwise, how can you possibly know this? How can you possibly know it? Number two. Number three, you have to be very careful here. Balaam and Balak, they used to have on TV. I don't know if you ever saw Shlomo. Please say yes. Hogan's Heroes. Oh, Shlomo. You never saw Hogan's Heroes. It was one of those, the usual, the Americans, the Germans are always made to look like a couple of fools. The Germans, they drop a coin and they bend down to pick it up. The German, they bang their heads together. They make the Germans look out to be like a bunch of clowns. Whatever the else they weren't clowns. Whatever they weren't clowns. You got this almost Balaam and Balak. Same thing with Haman and Achashverosh. You almost think that Haman and Achashverosh are just a couple of jovial idiots. Whatever else they are, they're not jovial idiots, right? They're cutthroat politicians. Balaam and Balak are high-level people. Balaam becomes the only prophet that the Goyim have. They actually have a prophet called Balaam. And Balaam takes his prophecy and he distorts it. So we're going to see in a second. I'll take a look at the pasuk. Vayar Balak ben Tzipor. He's called, his father's name is Tzipor. Tzipor means a bird. That's his name. But there are those that say that the way he achieved his sorcery was by eating the heart of a bird. You swallow the heart of a bird. And that's how he achieved sorcery. He certainly achieved heartburn. But he achieved his sorcery. And there's all sorts of funny stuff that goes on by sorcery. Last week's parsha, we saw that the Jewish people just killed Sichon and Og. They were the last two kings who were to prevent the Jewish people from penetrating into Eretz Yisrael. Vayogor Moav mipnei ha'amod. The entire Moab nation is very afraid of the Jewish people. Ki ravhu. Vayokotz Moav mipnei bnei Yisrael. The Moab are how does he translate Yakutz? They're disgusted in the face of the Bnei Israel. Now you'll notice that there are two aspects of the Jewish people. Aspect number one is the numbers. And aspect number two is the Bnei Israel themselves. Now what does that tell you? What does it mean they're afraid of the Bnei Israel? Vayomer Moav el Ziknei Midyan. Ata yelachachu hakol es kol sivosenu. They will lick up the entire surroundings. Kilcho chashor es yerek asada. When an axe licks up the produce of a field. When an ox licks the grass or the produce, it doesn't grow anymore. So they're worried that the Jewish people are going to lick up the surroundings. We'll see what that means in a second. Balak ben Tzipor melech lemoav ba'esahi. Balak is the king. So Rashi brings down on the licking up that, where is it? Right column. It's the right column about 9 lines down, almost in the middle. Whatever an ox licks up, it doesn't have any blessing. It doesn't grow anymore. But the commentaries say the licking up of the ox is symbolic of the Jewish people, the mouth. Where is the strength of the Jewish people? The strength of the Jewish people is the mouth. The mouth of prayer, the mouth of Torah. And here especially, they know that the Jewish leader, who's the Jewish leader, is Moshe Rabbeinu. And they understand that Moshe Rabbeinu's strength, they said to Midian, we had the armies. We had Sichon and there was Og, the 2 powerful kings from last week's Parsha. And the Jewish people defeated them. Now how did they defeat them? They defeated them with the prayer of Moshe Rabbeinu. His strength is in his mouth, which is ironic, because what else do we know about Moshe Rabbeinu? What do we know about Moshe Rabbeinu's mouth? He had a speech impediment. That's a strange thing to say about a Moshe Rabbeinu. Wow, his strength is in his mouth, the man can barely speak. And the strength is in his mouth. That means that the koach of the Jewish people, the strength of the Jewish people is obviously the ability to daven. That we daven, that we understand that we're helpless, that we have to rely on HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So what is the obvious, if you're going to, you understand, if they've got ballistic missiles, what do you got to fight them with? You're going to have to come up with your own ballistic missiles. That's the other way to fight people, with ballistic missiles. You can't fight them with a bow and arrow. There's a not funny, but there's a famous picture of the Germans invading Poland in World War II. In Poland, the Germans are invading with these panzers, the tanks. You know the picture I'm talking about? They're coming in with the tanks, and the Polish come out with their cavalry. And they're on horse. You ever see the picture? They're on their horses coming out towards German tanks. And they're wondering, like somebody didn't do their homework there. I don't know what they were thinking. Somebody did not do their homework. And they come out, they got zerschmettert. Because anyway, you can't fight panzers with horses with bows and arrows. So the Balak says, look, I know the Jewish people, the strength of their leader is in his mouth. We have to get somebody who can counter that strength with his mouth. How do you counter? With a curse. So he goes to Balaam. Vayishlach, pasuk hey. Vayishlach malachim el Balaam ben Be'or Pesor asher al nar eretz b'nei Ambo likrolo. He calls for Balaam. Leimor hinei am yatsa b'mitzrayim hina kisa es eina oretz uyeshe b'muli. Now we're going to say something very subtle over here. First of all, what is Balaam's reputation? So if you remember last week's Parsha, again, this all continues. One thing continues from the other. Sichon, who defeated Moab, was given the bracha Balaam cursed the other people. So he knows that Balaam helped Sichon. So Balaam is the famous cursor. He's effective. He's good at this. So Balak sends, I'm going to get Balaam over here to help me out. Now, what's bothering him really about the Jewish people? What's really bothering Balak? What's really bothering Balaam? Anybody got a guess? What's really bothering them about the Jewish people? The same thing that bothers everybody about the Jewish people. That they see that the Jewish people are at a higher level. They understand that there's something going on by the Jewish people, morality, there's a certain life satisfaction, and it bothers them. And especially bothers them when they see that we represent self-control. We represent the life of self-control. How can you be satisfied with self-control? The entire idea here is that Balaam, according to the guy, he doesn't want the Jewish people going into the land of Israel. Why? Because if the Jewish people go into the land of Israel, they're going to start doing the mitzvahs of the land of Israel. Truma, Meiser, all the mitzvahs that you're going to do in the land of Israel is going to take and elevate the physical. The physical is now going to achieve a level of Kedusha. And that Kedusha, that holiness, will now spread to the whole world. So that all the Goyim who are pursuing a life of physicality, they're now going to be affected by Kedusha. What they call Kedusha, we call self-control. The ultimate holiness is self-control. Self-control, if you look at the Torah, if I were to ask you, say somebody come up there, somebody from the outside, or somebody who knows nothing would say to you, give me a one-sentence description of what Torah is about. Self-control. My father always used to say, it's all about something. There are other connection to Hashem and devotion. There are a lot of adjectives you could use, but at the end of the day, if you look through the Torah, the entire Torah, start to finish, there's a thread that runs through it that's called self-control. You got to control what we eat. We have to control what we think about. We have to control what we look at. We have to control our ego. We have to control our angle. We have to. It's all about. It's not about denial. We don't deny ourselves. You just had Shabbos. We did not deny ourselves. We deny ourselves very little. It's just a question of self-control. We don't deny ourselves. We eat. We sleep. Shabbos is very enjoyable. You have a little bit of booze. Yeah, it's very, very enjoyable. We don't deny ourselves. There's a difference between 2 helpings of cholent and taking no prisoners. There's a difference. Taking no prisoners is a lack of self-control. I had a Rabbi who once said, eat up your cholent on Shabbos, don't eat up the Shabbos in the cholent. Yeah, we're supposed to enjoy it. You have a Suda Friday night, you have a Suda, you want to drink a little bit of schnapps, it's also good. If more schnapps is even better, no problem. We don't denial, but a little bit of self-control. We talk, we sing, just don't talk Lashon Hara. You could enjoy yourself. It's all about self-control. The nations look at us and they say, these people are our conscience. You know who said that? Who said that the Jewish people are the conscience of mankind? Very famous. It's called Hitler. Hitler, yeah. So the Jews are the conscience of mankind, and we don't want any conscience. We want to be able to live without conscience. That's what's bothering them, because we are the conscience of mankind. So, he sees the Jewish people. That's why you'll notice, take a look back for a second. Take a look back at the second line. Moav, Vayogar Moav B'Pnei, second line from the top. Vayogar Moav B'Pnei ha'am me'od. Moav is very afraid of the people. There it's a general term, the nation. That's because of the numbers. According to some, Moab was a very small country. Kiravhu. Vayokotz Moab Mipnei B'nai Yisrael. Moab is disgusted because of the B'nai Yisrael. Disgust isn't fear. Disgust means you give me the heebie-jeebies. You're Jewish, I can't stand you. You make me, I don't like you because you're Jewish. You disgust me. What are you disgusted about? I'm disgusted because I see your excellence. And that's why the Mefarshim say that if you see, where is it? Very, 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 very precise. There are 2 aspects of the Jewish people. There is that we're good compared to others, and we're good on our own. I mean, if you compare us to other people, compare us to other nations, crime in Bnei Brak. Now, how much crime is there in Bnei Brak? Well, there are a few people who do bench too fast, in Bnei Brak, and there are a couple of guys who take off their tefillin before Aleinu. There's some serious stuff going on there. Now compare that to other places. Bnei Brak at one point there were over 100,000 people in Bnei Brak and they didn't have a police department. Could you imagine a city, 100,000 people that you didn't even have a police department? Eventually they brought in the FBI, the Frum Bureau of Investigation, to make sure everybody says After Yotzar properly. There were people breaking in, people that had crime coming in from outside of Bnei Brak. There's no, Jews are always fighting. No, we're not. No, we're not fighting. My son was in the yeshiva for 5 years in the yeshiva, 600 guys in a dormitory, 600 males between the ages of 18 and 22 in a dormitory, and not one fist fight in 5 years. In 4 years, not one fist fight. Could you imagine? How do you get there? We're pretty. And if there is a fist fight, One time a guy pushes somebody else. What are you doing? What's wrong with you? You understand? Sometimes, if you're living in Israel, anytime a religious person gets caught doing anything wrong, that's on the headlines of the newspaper. That makes the headline. Religious man embezzled. Religious man stole. It's on the headlines. Why? So the Gemara says, mitoch genusan ata shomea shivchan. From the criticism of the Jewish people, you understand the excellence of the Jewish people. So if a person understands that, when a bunch of you ever been on the bus? There are a bunch of yeshiva guys on the bus, and somebody will say, one of the yeshiva guys will start laughing real loud. So I said, that's inappropriate. Could you imagine a bunch of secular teenagers on a bus and they're laughing loud? People are just happy if you don't, just don't assault me. Why? Because we expect more from you. The fact that listen, when I was growing up, my older brother was brilliant. And I remember one of my fondest childhood memories was my older brother got like a 91 on a test. And my parents were like, and he was also a tzaddik. And so my parents were like, what happened? What happened on the test over there? I didn't have time to study, that sort of thing. Then I think he got an 89. That was like a closed door meeting. I was so happy. He was getting in trouble. Hey man, I got a 77. We went to a restaurant that night. So when somebody's criticized for getting when a 91 isn't good enough, that tells you who the person is. We expect better. We expect more from you. We expect better from you. So there's a famous story. The Ben Ish Chai says there was a famous story. The mother lion has like 3 little cubs. And the mother lion says, "Okay, guys, listen. I'm done feeding you guys. You're going to have to go fend for yourself." So they said to the mother, "Where do we get food?" She said, "You could go anywhere. You're the king of the lions. Nobody's afraid of. Everybody's afraid of lions. Anywhere you go. You intimidate everybody." Okay. So they go. Where do you go? They go scampering off to go look for food. And as they get to the town, there's a big billboard, giant billboard at the edge of the town, and they see a picture of Shimshon, Samson, ripping apart a lion. So they turn around, they come right back running home and say, "Mama, this is not good. You said we could go anywhere we want. There he is, he's ripping apart a lion." She said, "Don't you understand? That's why they put it up on a billboard. They put it up on a billboard because it's the exception. If that was happening all the time, what's the saying? Dog bites man is not news. Man bites dog is news." There was a guy somewhere in China maybe, or Japan, I forgot where it was. There was this snake in the field. He grabbed the snake and he bit the snake. He killed the snake by biting it. That made news. When a snake bites somebody, it doesn't make news. This guy grabbed the snake. The snake was like, "What?" Apparently I think the snake bit him first. And so he got upset, like, "Whoa, what is that?" So he grabbed the snake and he bit the snake, and he killed the snake biting it. That makes news. That's the Jewish people. That's what they're jealous of. Our excellence is because of how we're criticized. Oh, the Jewish people got upset with Moshe Rabbeinu because we don't have water. Yeah, most people get upset if you don't have water. That's a good reason to get upset. And the Jewish people are taken to task for that. The mitoch genusan, from their criticism, ato shomea shivchan. So what does he do? He calls this guy Balaam. So they go to Balaam to get Balaam. They say, "I want you to curse the Jewish people." Now skip on ahead. And Balaam, at the bottom of the page, he sends these officials to Balaam. And Balaam says, "Well, I'm going to have to wait to hear what Hashem says to me." And then at the top of page 858, "Vayovo Elokim el Balaam vayomer mi anoshim ha'elimach." Hey, who are these guys? Now, if you were Balaam, and I asked you this question, God says to Balaam, "Who are these guys?" What would your response to God be? What would your response to God be? Top of page 858. Vayomer vayover Elokim el Balaam. Vayomer miha anashim el. Who are these men with you, Balaam? What would you respond to God if you were asked that question? What would you say? What would you say? I'm guys. Huh? I say, "You know they're there. Why are you asking me?" Why are you asking me? If your wife caught you with a piece of lemon meringue pie in your hand and in your part in your hand and part in your mouth, and she had baked it for a kiddush for Shabbos, and on Thursday night she nailed you, and she'd say to you, "Are you eating a piece of lemon meringue pie?" And what would your response be? I don't know what my response would be. My response would be grab the rest of the pie and get out of the house as fast as you can. Right? She's obviously not asking you because she doesn't know. She sees you're holding a piece of lemon. She obviously sees you got a piece of lemon pie in your head and your mouth. So what kind of question is that? What the answer is could be any answer. The last answer is, did you take a piece of lemon meringue pie? The last answer is yes or no. She sees it. What am I going to? Yes, I did. That's obviously. Hey, who are those men? I'd say, Hashem, you obviously know. And Balaam then thinks that, there are certain things that maybe Hashem is not aware of. So, Vayomer mi'anoshim melech, Vayomer Balaam Elokim, Balak ben Sipor melech Moav sholach elai. Balak sent them to me. Look how important I am. The king sent these messengers to me. The king sent these agents to me. And he said the following, Hinei ha'am yotzei Mitzrayma, vayechas haseina oretz. Now this expression we had earlier on Pasuk Vav. We had that expression earlier. That's exactly what Balaam said. He said, a nation has left Egypt, v'hinei kisa es ein ha'oretz. They've covered the view of the earth. You can't even see the earth. There are so many of them. And so Balaam says to God, Balak sent this to me. Curse them for me. Balak sent for me. What's Balaam really saying to Hashem? That's a very deep idea here. Two interesting concepts here. First of all, what does it mean when Balak says to Balaam originally, they're covering the vision of the earth. They're covering the view of the earth. What does he mean by that? What's the plain meaning? Saying there's so many of them, you can't even see the earth. You can't see what's happening. Can't see through them. You can't even see to the ground. Number one. But what he's meaning at a deeper level is, how do the nations of the world live? They live with whatever you see, that's what you indulge in. Hina kisa esein haaretz. What they see is what they indulge in. And the Jewish people are telling us, we're covering that. You got to look past that. You can't just, what you see is what you take. You have to think about what the purpose of life is. You have to think about what the consequences are. The nations of the world is, whatever, there it is. Looks good, smells good, tastes good. You indulge. The Jewish people say, can't just indulge. Hina kiseyas ein arts. The Jewish people are, that's what we said earlier, they're the conscience. You can't just indulge. You can't just live without any restraint whatsoever and get involved in the worst forms of perversion. You have to think a little bit. You got a role. You got a task in life, even if it's having Noachide laws. So we're very bothered by that. We don't like that. We don't like having to think before we do. We don't like having this idea of thinking. We like to just indulge in the worst perversions. That's what the Canaanites were involved with. Number one. Number two, what's Balaam saying? Well, Balak, Hashem says, who are these people? Well, Balak, the king of Moab, sent to me to curse the Jewish people. Now, what's he really saying to Hashem? So, we're living through this right now. We're living through this right now. There's a president in the United States, Mr. Trump, who seems to say something different every other day or every other minute. And everybody's wondering, well, he was originally going to take down the Iranian regime, and then he changed his mind, and they were going to bomb this, and now he's not going to bomb anything, and he was friends with Israel, and now he's upset with Israel, and he wasn't. So there's a pasuk that says, Leiv melech biyad Hashem. The heart of the king is in the hands of Hashem. Remember we mentioned this last week? You know why the heart of the king is in the hand of Hashem? You can't have the king just in a bad mood and setting off nuclear bombs. King had a bad day, boom. White Sox won, boom. Right? You can't have the king doing that. The king is too powerful. The king's free choice is limited. Leiv Melech, the heart of the king, Biyad Hashem, is in Hashem's hand. The king is too powerful. You can't have this guy running the world on his whim. So who's running the world? It looks like he's deciding. And who's really deciding for him? Because Baruch Hu is manipulating his heart. Oh, what's Balak saying to Hashem? You're upset with me? And he understands. Hashem says, hey, who are these guys? Hashem knows who they are. Balak saying, well, Balaam says to him, well, Balak the king sent for me. And obviously we all know that the king, what he does is because you're manipulating the king, so I'm only doing what you want me to do. How do you like that for a sharp answer? Right? Balaam says to Hashem, if a king sent for me and you're manipulating the king, then obviously I'm only doing what you want me to do. What's that in your hand? Lemon meringue pie. I'm only eating because you want me to eat it. Obviously, if you baked it, you want somebody to taste it. I told you the story. Lady comes to her husband. Guy comes to her husband Friday morning. She says, last night there were 2 lemon meringue pies in the refrigerator. Now there's only one. How'd such a thing happen? Husband says, well, it was dark in the kitchen. I didn't see the other one. So what do you call it? The Balak? Oh. So Hashem says to Balaam, Vayomer Elokim el Balaam, lo selechem ba'im. Lo so'ores ha'amki baruchu. You can't curse them, they're blessed. Oh. So Balaam says, he says, sorry boys, I can't help you out. So Balak then comes back to Balaam, he sends back, he says, what's the problem? You think I can't honor you enough? You think I can't pay you? And then we see who Balaam really is. Pasuk Yud Ches. Pasuk Yud Ches. Vayan Balaam vayomer avdei Balak. 7 lines from the bottom. Vayan Balaam vayomer avdei Balak. Imitem li Balak melo beiso kesef ezav. If Balak would give me a house, he would fill his house with gold and silver. Lo uchal lavor es pi Hashem Elokai lasos ketanu. I still wouldn't be able to disobey a God. No matter how much money he gave me, I wouldn't be able to disobey God. So hit nudge does, says Rashi, right bottom of the right column in Rashi. Milo beiso kesef ezav lamadu shenefesh rechava. He's got a incredible desire. Umechamed mamon acherim. He wants other people's money too. He says, listen, he ought to pay me a lot. He'd have to hire an army. If he wanted to fight the Jewish people, he'd have to hire an army. This way he can pay me and I just curse him. So he ought to give me a lot of money. Now, what does the Gemara say about Balaam? And we're going to see the in Pirkei Avos. Is there a sitter here somewhere? Any sitter? Thank you, Rechmil. Thank you. I hope they have. This one may not have Pirkei Avos. It has Pirkei Avos? Okay. The Gemara says that the Mishnah says that somebody who is you could be a disciple of Avram Avinu or a disciple of Balaam Arasha. Somebody who is, where is it? I forgot where it is. Which Mishnah is it? Is it the 5th parak? Just 1 second. Here we go. One who carries 3 traits is a disciple of Avram Avinu, and 3 other things is the disciple of Balaam Arasha. We're going to see this comparison between Avram and Balaam constantly in this parsha. There's a comparison. I got it. It's the 5th chapter, and according to the Siddur, it's the 22nd Mishnah. 5th chapter. Ayin Tova, a generous eye, V'ruach Nemucha, humility, V'nefesh Shvala. Nefesh Shvala means, he translates over here an arrogant, a good eye, a meek soul. A meek soul, what he means is somebody who's not got intense physical desires. somebody whose the physical desires are his desires are under control. He is a disciple of Avram Avinu. Ayin Ra, Viruach, and Ayin Ra means he's jealous, begrudging of other people. Viruach Gavoa means he's arrogant. V'nefesh Rechava means he's got tremendous amount of physical desires. Talmid of Shal Bilam Arasha, he's a disciple of Bilam. Now, here's your question. You got two people. And again, Avram Avinu is happy for other people. He's an ayin tova. He's not jealous of others. Doesn't covet what other people have. He is humble, and he has his desires under control. You got another guy who's haughty, and he's jealous, and who's living a more content, fulfilling life in this world? Says the Mishnah, what's the difference between them? The difference is that the disciples of Avram Avinu, ochlim ba'olam hazeh, they actually consume this world. They eat in this world. That means they enjoy this world. V'nochlin olam haba, they have a portion in the world to come. And the disciples of Bilam, they get Gehenna in this world, and then they go into a deep pit in the world to come. That means that Bilam represents, thank you very much, Yochanan. I'll leave it. Bilam represents every negative trait known to man. He has a begrudging eye, he's jealous of everybody else, he has unlimited desire, and he's haughty, he's arrogant as can be. How's his life in this world? What do you think his life in this world is like? He's not living a very satisfied life. He's always frustrated. A person like that is always frustrated. A person who lives like Avram Avinu, so he's actually going to have some satisfaction in this world. What does it say over here? It says that Bilam, even if he would give me a house full of gold, I can't curse the Jewish people. That means he wants a house full of gold. Otherwise he wouldn't be talking about it. If he's talking about it, that means that's what he really wants. Now, the commentaries ask a very big question, because we also find in Pirkei Avos in the 6th chapter that Rav Yossi ben Kisma was once walking. Now, Rav Yossi ben Kisma is the leader of the generation. He's the Gadol Hador, and it says in Pirkei Avos, Rav Yossi ben Kisma was once walking, and a man saw him, and he said, "Where are you from?" It's page 584. He saw Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma. He said, "Where are you from?" He said, "I'm from a city of scholars, of Talmidei Chachamim. Me'ir Gedol shel Chachamim v'shel Sofrim. I'm from a city of scholars." So the guy said, "Rebbe." The man said, "Rebbe, come live with us and I'll give you 1,000,000 gold pieces." So Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma said to him, "Even if you give me all the money, the gold and silver in the world, I would only live in a place of Torah." That was the conversation. The guy said, come live with us, I'll make you a millionaire. Live in ours. He said, "I'm only going to live in a place of scholars, even if you give me all the money in the world." I don't understand. Bilam talked about money, that a house full of gold, and he's criticized for it. Here you have Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma, and he's talking about all the money in the world, and he's praised for it. So why is he any better than Bilam? Here's the question. Why is he any better than Bilam? Bilam, Rashi says, you see that he had incredible desire. So why is Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma any better, any worse than Bilam? Guy's talking about all the money in the world. Anybody? What do you say?
The on the condition I have Torah, I'm okay with that. Cool.
He said what?
The Chacham says on the condition I have Torah, then I'll be okay with money.
He didn't say he's going to okay with money. He said, "I won't take it. I won't switch my location even for all the money in the world." But he's talking about all the money in the world. Bilam said, "I can't curse them even for a house full of gold." But he's talking about a house full of gold. Since he mentions a house full of gold, so Rashi says, "Oh, you see, he desired it." Yeah, Rabbi Yossi ben Kisma mentions a whole world full of money, and there's no criticism of him.
There's no such thing as more as a world. You can't get more than a world full of money, but you can get more than a house full of money. So
Very good. In other words, like this, there's reality and there's figure of speech. You could give somebody a house full of gold. You can't give somebody all the money in the world. When Rabbi Yossi ben Kisva is mentioning all the money in the world, it's obviously something that you can't give him. So he's using that to make a point. When Balaam says, if this guy would give me a house full of gold, well, the fact that you're talking about that means you're thinking about a house full of gold. Because a house full of gold is doable. A house full of, they say the story of the Communist Party, they call in a guy in Russia to test his loyalty. So they said to the guy, if you owned a house, if you owned a mansion, what would you do with it? So the guy says, I would donate it to the party. He said, if you owned a boat, what would you do with it? Say, I would donate it to the party. He says, if you owned a shirt, what would you do with it? A shirt I would keep. So he said, I understand. A boat you'd give to the party, a house you give to a shirt you would keep. He says, yeah, a shirt I actually own. It's different when you actually own it. I could talk about a boat, I could talk about a house. I don't know. Sure, I'll donate that to the party. That's the easiest thing in the world. That's why I told you. I don't understand people going to Dubai. You go to Dubai and all you see is the things that you can't buy, not that you do buy. You go to Dubai, it's all the things you can't afford, not what you could afford. Why would you want to do that? Go to Dubai and let's see what you're never going to have. Here's a Lamborghini and you're not going to have one. Because you're not a policeman in Dubai. So you're going to have a Colo car that has 3 wheels instead of 4. Why would you want to torture yourself like that? Why go look at it? So Balaam is totally incapable of being satisfied. Now, he decides to go curse the Jewish people. One more point. So he heads out with his donkey. And then at the bottom of page 858, Vayakam Balaam baboker. Balaam gets up in the morning, he saddles his donkey. The bottom of page 858. Balaam saddles his donkey. Gentlemen, can you imagine the President of the United States getting up in the morning, he really has to go, and he pumps gasoline into his own car? President of the United States he gets up in the morning and he's pumping gasoline, or he's cranking up the helicopter, or what's it called, Air Force One. He's pumping the gasoline. Balaam is an important guy. He gets up and he saddles his own donkey. Why does he saddle the donkey? Says Rashi, Sina mikalkelis es ashura. Hatred distorts your normal thinking. And you see how timeless the Torah is. Because in World War II, that's exactly what happened. The Germans were losing the war. They needed all the resources for the war effort, and Hitler, out of his hatred for the Jewish people, kept executing Jewish people, taking up resources and manpower to kill the Jewish people. Your own life is on the line. Your country is going down the chutes. You should be devoting it all to the war effort. The hatred blinds you. What else blinds you? Ava, love, blinds you. Love is blinding. It's worse than blinding. It's downright deceiving. But the love is blinding. And look what Rashi says over here. Yuvayachavoshes asono, left column of Rashi, 858. Left column of Rashi, 4 lines from the bottom. Vayachavoshes asono. He covers, if you find it, please show the person next to you. Says Rashi, Mikan shehasina mekalkelis es ashura. We see from here that hatred distorts clear thinking. Shechavashu ba'atzmo. Amar HaKadosh Baruch Hu, says Hashem, Rasha, you evil person, you. Kfar kidamcha Avraham avihem. Their father Avraham has already preceded you. How? Shenemar vayashkem Avram baboker vayachavosh es chamora. What did Avram Avinu do when he had to go to sacrifice Yitzchak? He got up in the morning and saddled his donkey. Your hatred blinds you and causes you to do a ridiculous thing. Avram Avinu's devotion to HaKadosh Baruch Hu also causes him. Therefore, what you're trying to do, and we'll see tomorrow more about this, it's offset by Avram Avinu. Avram Avinu's devotion offsets Balaam's hatred. That's why I told you there's going to be this constant parallel between them. We'll see. They say there's it was a story. I think it's an apocryphal story, but apparently George Bush was on the presidential motorcade George Bush the son. What was he? Which one was he? W? Is that George W? Huh? W. So apparently he was in the presidential motorcade. They stopped at a gas station. And when they were at his wife got out of the car and she starts talking to the gas station attendant. And after she finished talking to him, she gets back into the limousine and he said to her, what was that all about? She said, oh, it's just a guy that I dated from high school. So he starts laughing. So she says, what are you laughing about? He says, well, you could have married him and instead you married the President of the United States. She goes, you got it wrong, buddy. If I would have married him, he would have become the President of the United States. And the Gemara says, "Heve omer hakol me'aisha." It's all because of the wife. Though you never hear about a self-made woman. You always hear about self-made men, because usually most men are made by their wives. Or you never hear about a self-made woman. Oh, she's a self-made woman. You never hear that. It's not the husband makes the wife makes the husband. All right, we'll see tomorrow the comparison between Avram Avinu and Balaam.